Now, let us continue the discussion. In the last lecture, we started the topic exemptions from GST. Now, in reality, it is one of the most important topic of GST. Just like we have section 10 in Income Tax Act, which deals with all the exemptions of income tax, we have section 11 and section 6 under GST laws, section 11 of CGST Act and section 6 of IGST Act, which deals with all the exemptions of GST. So technically, it's very relevant. It's a relevant topic. Now it's very lengthy also, so it's not possible to cover each and every detail with undergraduate level studies. So I will discuss only the main concepts of exemption. In reality, when it comes in real life, how to give the exemption, then we have to really read the act, notifications and circulars. Only then we can make a decision whether something is exempt or not, whether any supply is exempt or not. It's not so easy to give answer yes or no without reading all the things. Now we have two notifications which have been issued. First notification was for the supply of goods which are exempt, and second notification was for the supply of services which are exempt. As far as goods are concerned, I have showed you in the last lecture some of those supply of goods which are exempt, because no one can learn all the supply of goods. So I have given around 10 or 12 examples which you should learn, and when you supply those goods, it is tax free, there is no GST involved. That was the point. That was till this point I discussed in the last class with you. Now let me continue my discussion with those services which are exempt. So now the discussion will be on supply of services which are exempt. So let me share my notepad. Okay, before that, there are so many supply of services, so many supplies of different services which are not subject to any GST. When you supply those, there is no need to pay any GST. Now we have a notification number 12, which was issued in 2017, and that I will show you that notification. I think yesterday also I showed you that notification. If you remember, there was no category given in that notification. Let me see whether it is available with me right now or not. Let me show you that. So what I wanted to show you is that in case of these goods or services, categories are not defined under the act or notification, but for simplicity purposes, authors as well as I have also defined some categories. I have made different categories, and I have tried to put different services under different categories. Let me show you this notification. I hope this website is visible. So this is the notification. As you can see, there is no category. What is given is chapter number, name of these services, description, rate, etc., and conditions. But there is no category, like which is religious service, which is under the category of charitable service, which is related to education, which is related to health, which is related to banking, construction, financial service, life insurance, general insurance. So there are different categories of services. When we make different categories, it becomes easy for us to learn. Otherwise, if you see, no category is given, only headings are given, numbers are given. So in total, I can say initially there were 81 different services, but now in fact these are more than 81 because this notification has been amended so many times. It was the original notification, but it has been amended. So some changes have been done in this notification. So I wanted to simply show you that the categories which now I will be discussing with you, it is not based on the act. It is based on my own interpretation that I have also tried to divide these different services in different categories so that it becomes easy for us to learn. I hope the concept is clear till this point. Please raise your hand if you have understood the concept till this point. Okay. Now let me start discussing with you different categories of services which are exempt from GST. So now I'll be sharing my notepad, and it is better you also start noting down because there are unlimited number of services. So I'm not going to discuss each and every concept. I'm not going to discuss all those services which are exempt from GST, but I will discuss only relevant ones and relevant points only. So let me start sharing with you my notepad, and it's better if you also note it down so that you can remember it when the examination comes. I hope this screen is visible. Is it? Yes, the screen is visible now. So I have discussed supply of goods exempt from tax in the last lecture, and now the next point is supply of services which are exempt from tax. Services. So technically I am discussing with you section 11(1) of CGST, section 6(1) of IGST. The only difference is when I am saying this section, that means the same supply is intra, and when I am saying that it is exempt under this section, that means I must be doing the supply of interstate. Now what? So let me discuss with you some categories. First category should be agricultural service. So I have divided these in different categories. So I'm not discussing any act now. I'm discussing the notification. That notification I have shown you. Because if you remember section 11(1) and 6(1), here the exemption can be only through notification. And when I will be discussing 11(2) and 6(2), in that case exemption will not be through notification, will be through special order. So I'm not discussing those now. So all my exemption, which are all my supplies which are exempt now, is through notification. So first heading is agricultural services. Now related to agricultural services which are exempt from GST. Now if you remember that notification, there was serial number entries given. So when I will discuss with you now, what I will discuss with you will be entry number, or you can say serial number, because if any one service is exempt under CGST Act, it's possible that the same service is also exempt under IGST Act, because when you supply something, you can supply it within the same state or you can supply it interstate. Now if you are supplying banking services, for example, it's possible that the supplier is in Delhi recipient is in Delhi, but it is also possible that the supplier is in Delhi but recipient is in Punjab. So what I wanted to show you is that I have to learn the name of service. I should not think that it is inter or intra, because by default, if you learn the name of the same service of course can be inter as well as intra, it depends. So every service which is intrastate will be of course interstate also if you desire, if you want yourself. If I'm a businessman and if I want to supply my goods within Delhi, then of course no one is restricting me to supply my goods outside Delhi. It's my choice whether I want to supply or not. So any service or any supply which is intrastate, of course, can be interstate if supplier wants. But there are some supplies which can only be interstate and not intra. So what is true is actually any supply which is intra, of course, can be inter without any restriction. But vice versa is not true. If any supply which is inter, it does not mean that it will be intra also. Why? Like every import and export, it's very common example. All imports and exports are must to be treated as interstate supplies. So imports and exports can never become intra. So I simply wanted to give you an example that every supply which is intrastate can be interstate also if you desire. But every supply which is interstate on your desires, it cannot become intrastate. It is possible. Most of the interstate supply will also be intrastate if you want, but you cannot use this argument to generalize this line that all interstate supplies can be intra. It's not true. I have given you the example of import and export. All imports and exports are by default assumed as interstate supply. These can never become intra. So what I wanted to show you through this argument is that when I'm discussing this notification of CGST Act, and I will explain one service, the same service will be included under IGST Act also, but my serial number might change. So I'm calling these as entry number under CGST Act and entry number under IGST Act. This entry number is nothing but serial number. So it's possible that the sequence might change. Some service might have been written in serial number 12 here, and it might be serial number 11 or 13 in the different act. So I hope my argument is clear. Description of service. Now I will start telling the name that within agricultural services categories which you should learn and which are tax free. So write only one in this case. So there is an entry 24B, but the same service is written in 25B under IGST Act. I will show you now. This 24B is nothing but serial number of this service in this notification. That's it. So I'm calling it now not as serial number but entry number. And what name you should learn? That within agricultural for your level you should learn only this name. That services by way of storage / warehouse. Cereals, pulses, fruits, vegetables, spices, sugarcane. Only selected items I am telling. Coffee, tea, etc. For your level, this much is sufficient. Now there are so many cold storage facilities available near Sabji Mandi area. If you have visited Delhi and if you have seen the Azadpur market, which is the Asia's largest wholesale market of fruits and vegetables, on road you can find cold storage facility available. So many vegetables and fruits are of perishable nature and they need storage, cold storage facilities, otherwise those will not be of use after some days. So the people who are providing this service, they are not supposed to pay any GST on the service provided. Suppose I have my cold storage facility and I am charging rupees 20,000 rupees from any vegetable vendor who want to store the vegetables for 7 days. For example, this is my charge 20,000. On this 20,000, I am not supposed to pay any GST to the government of India because I am providing agricultural services. So the service of my nature is what? I am providing storage service of cereal, pulses, fruits, vegetables, spice, sugar cane, coffee, tea, etc. That's it. Is the concept clear? This is one example. Then second, so I will be discussing only relevant ones. Otherwise, the list will be very lengthy. So only relevant ones we will discuss. Now then, serial number 54 under CGST, and the same thing is written in 57. Services related to silkworms. You must have listened that silkworm. Silk के कपड़े हम जो पहनते हैं because of that silkworm. So services relating to cultivation of plants. And rearing of all forms of animals. Like we are breeding fish, that is known as sericulture. So fish will be used in different purposes. Of course, for eating purposes, in the areas where fish is consumed. So everyone, any person who is having a place where ships are breeded, that service is tax free. No need to pay any GST to the government. So rearing of all life form of animals except horse, except the rearing of horses. Now this rearing can be for food, like fish can be for food, silk can be for clothes. So it depends. This rearing can be for food, for fiber, for raw material, for any purpose if a rearing of life form of animals is being done. Or any agricultural produce. By way of, or any agricultural produce by way of by way of processes carried out. Only limited headings or points we should learn. So I'm writing only relevant ones. Processes carried out at an agricultural farm. Like pruning, cutting, cleaning, and such operations does not change. Such operations does not change the basic characteristics of agricultural produce. Because, like for example, mustard or wheat, rice, the crops of these are ready, for example. But how will it be able to sell in the market? So these has to be cut. Pruning must be done, cleaning must be done. These must be packed in the forms, and then these will be loaded on the truck or tractor, and then these will go to the market for sale. So all the processes are treated as agricultural produce or processes for which there is no GST involved. Suppose I have my tractor and my tractor has been hired by a farmer so that I can load the weight or rice of that farmer from the farm fields, and I will drop those in the market, and I will charge some amount as my charge for using my tractor. So that charge is GST free. Suppose I will be charging 3,000 rupees. Government says no need to pay tax on this 3,000, though I will be supplying some service. I am supplying tractor services to that farmer, because that will make sure that the goods are available for sale in the market. So which does not change the basic character of the agricultural produce, but make it marketable for the primary market. For the primary market means in Anaj Mandi, etc., where directly these will be sold. Now same thing, suppose Haldiram purchases potatoes. Suppose if Haldiram purchases potatoes for making potato chips, that will become taxable then. Potato chips. If potatoes are purchased for potato chips, then in that case GST will be applicable. It is not treated as an agricultural produce because you are changing the basic characteristics of this potato. And if these potatoes are cleaned or packed in the bags so that these are available for sale in Anaj Mandi area. Anaj Mandi basically is the area where the crops normally go for sale in the market. There the intermediaries will purchase it and will sell to the government if government wants to stock the agricultural produce, because India or every nation needs buffer stock also, so that when any food shortage arises, if any national emergency arises, if war happens. So like in India, we have Food Corporation of India, which stores these crops, that even if, for example, for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, if import and export cannot happen in emergency, then our nation buffer stock will be sufficient to provide food to our population for some time limits, maybe some months or maybe some years. So those intermediaries can sell to the government or can sell to any other party also. But the point which I wanted to show you is that all services related to cultivation of plants or all agricultural produce by way of what? By way of processes carried out in this agricultural farm, whether it is pruning, cutting, whatsoever is this, which does not change the basic characteristics of that crop, and it only makes that crop eligible for sale in the market. Then that service is also that service which is tax free. Similarly, you need labor also, which will do the cutting. I do not know how to cut the crop. I don't know how to clean the crop. So we have labor, farm labor, we can say. So anyone who is supplying the farm labor, supply of farm labor is GST free. Now, in earlier times, farmers themselves were doing this job, and there was barter system of exchange going on in earlier time. But nowadays, what happens is that normally farmers hire the labor. So these laborers are from UP and Bihar, these states. During this time, during the month of March, etc., these labor come from their state and work in the fields of North India, for example. So the farmers have hired the farm labor. Now normally every farmer doesn't do this labor in his or her own fields. They hire the labor and they give some amount to that labor, and the labor will ultimately cultivate different crops, whatever is required. So anyone who is supplying this farm labor is technically providing a service that is GST free. There is no need to charge any GST on that supply of farm labor. Then next related to agriculture is what? Agricultural extension services. Agriculture, someone who is supplying agricultural extension services, that supplier is not supposed to pay any GST to the government, and thus of course no need for that supplier to charge GST from the farmer also. Why these are made tax free? Because ultimately if you make these services taxable under GST laws, the entire burden will fall on the farmer, because farmer is availing these services. So the whosoever is the supplier will ultimately charge this tax from the farmer. So the government, that is why the intention of the government is to make sure that the burden on farmer doesn't fall or doesn't increase. So these have been made tax free. And normally such things are nowadays required by every farmer, normally every farmer. That is why these are in the exemption list. Now what is agricultural extension services? Where you apply scientific knowledge. It means application of scientific knowledge. Like new machines might be employed, new techniques might be employed, new raw material might be used in the fields. So anyone who is providing these agricultural extension services to the farmer, the supplier is not supposed to pay any GST, and that is why supplier will not obviously charge GST from the farmer also. This is one example. So this is one list which I have discussed in agriculture. I have discussed 2 points of agriculture: storage, warehousing of cereals, and related to rearing of life form of animals, and this produced by way of different things. And that's it. Now you please learn only these 2 as far as agriculture is concerned. In reality there are 5 or 6 more, but I'm not explaining those. Better to learn only these 2 because the list is very lengthy. Now second list. In second, let me deal with you education. I'm covering these basic necessity sectors. Educational services. Now in education also, that table should be there. So the same thing is written in the notification of central tax and the notification of integrated tax. Because whether this applies inter or intra, it should be tax free then. So now entry number CGST Act. Entry number IGST. Description of services. Now entry number 49 for example, and here it will be 51. Now newspapers collect the news. If you read newspaper, then from where these newspapers, the Hindu, Indian Express, Times of India, Hindustan Times, Financial Express, from where they collect the news? So they have their own reporters as well as they get the reports from independent or freelancers. who are not the employees of any company, but they collect the news and they sell the news to the newspaper companies, you can say. That service is also exempt. If I'm a freelancer and if I have some news and if I want to sell this news to Hindustan Times, then whatever is my charge, for example, I will say that I will charge 30,000 rupees if you want this news from me, and Hindustan Times, for example, gives me 30,000, then on this 30,000 there is no GST. Though I am providing my service as a newspaper news information supplier, but I should not pay any GST to the government, and I should not charge any GST from the recipient, which is Hindustan Times, for example, in my case. That can be any newspaper, of course. Now this service is also tax free. So I can say that services by way of collecting, oblique providing. Suppose I am providing news by an independent reporter, independent journalist. So this independent journalist is providing service of providing news to any other party, for which if he or she charges some amount, of course he will charge something, no GST is required. So this is one example. Now let us come to schools, colleges. These are also providing educational services, tuition centers. Now what about these? So we have 66 here and 69 serial number there. Now there are two situations. Either the institution will provide the service or will avail the service. If you take the example of college, college is providing some services also. College is receiving some services also. So in this category, we will frame two different subcategories. Services provided. This is what our institution provides, for example, by, and next will be services provided to. For the time being, this college or this institution is provider, services provided by an educational institution. Now the main question arises, what do you mean by this educational institution? So educational institution technically is having some definition. So here I am writing a small note that what is this educational institution that I must know. So three types of institutions, three types are educational institutions. First, preschool education, like play school, that is known as preschool education. If someone is providing play school, that is known as education institution. Or education till class 12. All schools are in the definition of educational institution. They are providing education till class 12. Now what about colleges? Then in that case, education should be you wait for 1 minute. As far as education after class 12 is concerned, then the concept used is that education institution which is providing the degree which is recognized by law is education institution, otherwise no. So I can say education of of the curriculum or I can say education of the degree recognized by law. That's it. So all the higher education institutions of, for example, Delhi University, Calcutta University, Madras University, J&K University, these all are providing the degrees which are legally recognized under UGC. All medical institutions, etc., these are providing degrees recognized under respective laws. So till class 12, every school is an education institution. After class 12, only recognized the institutions which are providing legal degrees. Legal means which are recognized by law or education institution, like coaching centers. After class 12, coaching centers are also providing some education, but they are not giving the degrees. So coaching centers will not be treated as educational institutions, and whatever fees coaching centers collect, they have to pay GST. But whatever fees Shriram College of Commerce collects, no GST is required, because this is an educational institution which is giving the degree recognized by law. Now, apart from this, we have third category also, where those people who don't want to further higher studies after their schooling, they go for small vocational courses, ITIs. You must be knowing about ITIs, which provide training of painter, job of a painter, tailor, mechanics. Okay, these people who can, like AC technician, electrician. So these people, they train these people and give some expertise so that these people can work and earn a living. Those are known as vocational programs. So we have third category, where education is provided as a part of an approved, so the word used now is approved vocational education course. Approved. Now, approved vocational education, that is also having some definition, but that we can ignore. These are simple. You are concerned with the word approved. Otherwise, we have some training programs, industrial training institutes, ITIs, etc., etc. All these are approved, but you only go by the word approved vocational education courses. In this, small diploma courses are covered, like training given for someone to become painter, tailor, AC repair technician, okay, mechanic who repair our bike, car, electrician. So these jobs, etc. These are vocational courses. Now these are known as educational institution. Now my first point. Now which are the services which are provided by education institution and which are tax free? So first is service provided, A point. 2, it's students. Faculty and non-teaching staff. Like the college is giving you teaching services to the students, for which college is charging the fee, but that fee is without GST, because there is no need to pay GST on that, because it is exempt under entry number 66 or 69, depends whether the supply is interstate or intrastate. So all services provided by such educational institutions to the students, faculty or staff is tax free. Second, entrance examinations are also provided by these education institutions. So services provided by an education institution by way of conduct of entrance examinations against some amount in the form of entrance fee, against consideration in the form of entrance fee. Like if Shriram College of Commerce conducts an entrance examination for BCom honors course, for example, right now we don't have entrance exam, but for example, after 5 years there is an entrance exam, and this college conducts the entrance examination and charges 200 rupees as fee from the students. So this 200 rupee fee will be without GST. Because of this point, services provided by an education institution by way of conduct of entrance exam against the consideration in the form of entrance fee. These services provided by an educational institution is without GST. Other than this, if educational institution is providing any service, then GST is required. For example, tomorrow this institution launches a course where anyone can participate and the fees is 50,000 rupees, then this fee will be subject to GST, because this service is not provided to only students, faculty or staff, but to anyone. Further, it is not because for an entrance examination, so this fee is subject to GST. There is no exemption in that case. Now, so many services the college also takes. So now my same entry number, but now I am discussing the services which are provided to an education institution. 2. Now it is 2 where I am providing, I am receiving. In this case, institution is providing. Now to an educational institution. Now, which are the services which are provided to educational institution? Which are those services which are taxed? First one. Now, so many times the institution doesn't conduct the entrance examination on its own. They hire these services. For example, TCS. At so many entrance examinations, you must have noticed that TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, is the service provider. The institution hires the services of TCS where online entrance examinations are being held. So technically in this case, TCS, the company TCS Limited is providing services to an educational institution. They must be charging some amount also. So in that case, the concept is services provided to an educational institution, services provided to an educational institution. Now institutions availing these services by way of services related to admissions, conduct of examinations, admissions to such institution. If any institution, for example, is availing some services of having admissions or examination, if through this corona phase, for example, examinations are conducted by TCS or BCom honors course of any university. So TCS will of course charge some amount from this institution, that is GST free, because any service provided to an education institution by way of conduct of admission or examinations is without GST. Because why? The purpose is to make it exempt, because if you charge TCS for this GST, ultimately the tax implication will fall upon the educational institution. So better to exempt this from GST and not to put education at some higher finance burden, because education and health are normally considered as those things which are not for profit motive but for service. So that it should be at less rates or very nominal charges. This is basically the purpose. Similarly, now second point. Institutions hires so many other services also. Now again, services provided to that educational institution because there are three types of educational institution: 1, 2 and 3. Now my all other earlier points were using the word educational institutions, so that means schools were covered, institutions higher level were covered, and vocational training was also covered. But now here I am using a different word. Here I am using a word not to the education, I am using the word that. So here I would like to mention specifically which education institution out of those three. So that educational institution which is providing services by way of preschool education or education up to class 12 by way of. Now my B point does not cover colleges. My B point does not cover those institutions which are providing vocational training. My B point cover only schools. So if schools are availing these services, which services? First, transportation. Because normally in colleges we don't provide transportation to students. But in schools normally we have school buses. Because the students are of less age. So we can't play with the safety of those child who are in school. At college level the child becomes mature and it's necessary that that person should be granted some independence also. But till school level safety is of utmost priority. So all services which are provided to those education institutions which are providing till school level education with services. Now every school doesn't have their own buses. They avail the services of third party which will provide buses. So transportation of students, faculty and non-teaching staff. For example, a bus owner charges 10,000 rupees for giving 2 buses per month to any school. Then that 10,000 is without GST. There is no GST involved. Why? Because it will keep the fees of the students less. That is the main purpose. Similarly, catering services. In schools we have canteens. Colleges also we have canteens, but in schools these canteens are without GST. So I can say catering services. Services by way of catering, that is also tax free. And third, everywhere you have the people who are in housekeeping. In college, in our college also we have the people who clean the floors, toilets, benches. In school also, we so many times schools hire, rather than hiring a permanent long staff, they hire the services of a contractor like this Sulabh International for taking care of the toilet, to clean the toilets regularly. So those services at school level only. Make sure it is only till school level, not at college level. At college level, this might be taxable. I'm using the word might be because the decision should not be taken only on the basis of one entry. There are more than 81, or you can say around 90 entries and if some service is not covered here in the exempt, I cannot say that it is taxable. I will check all other entries also, and maybe something will become covered in separate entry where it should be exempt. That is why this topic exemption is very important. Just because some entry or some service is not exempt in one entry, you cannot take the decision that it is taxable. It might be exempt in different category with a different name. So that point you should always remember at your higher level also. Now, if schools are availing some security services, cleaning, housekeeping, services performed in, every word is relevant. Now, word use is what? In such educational institution. I'm using the word in. Do you know what is the relevance of in? Now, suppose any school is availing some housekeeping service in the school premises. Then housekeeping firm is charging, for example, 1 lakh per year. That 1 lakh is without GST. But the same service, for example, the school has organized a function in any stadium, private stadium. And in that stadium, to clean that stadium after the function is over, housekeeping services are hired, for which they are charging 5,000. That is not GST free. That is the relevance of word in, because now the housekeeping services are not performed in the institution. Now these are performed for the institution but outside the institution. That is not GST free. That is subject to GST. That is why every single word is having relevance. So I have discussed as far as an education institution is concerned, point A, point B, and last point is point C. Now, services provided now here also all the institutions are covered. Only in the second point, only first educational institution was covered, which is school. That is the point which you should remember. Services provided to an educational institution. Now it is for higher education. Which is providing education for a degree recognized by law. By way of supply of online educational journals or periodicals. Now this point, if you notice carefully, it is covering my second educational institution related to colleges. Second educational institution is covered. This point was covering all the three educational institutions. All three educational institutions are covered here. These things you should carefully note. That's it as far as education is concerned. That's it. Now, third is healthcare service. Healthcare services. Now this healthcare service I will discuss after 5 minutes break. So till then we can end this session here, and after 5 minutes I will again start, because today I want to cover so many other services. Otherwise it's a very lengthy topic, and it's not so easy to be covered from any other material. So I would like to cover it. So let's have 5 minutes break. Then we will meet again, and we'll continue our remaining services. Goodbye for then. Till then.